The young and the restless spoilers shock the shadows of Genoa City, Ian Ward and the truth about Tessa. For years, Ian Ward had haunted Genoa City like a shadow, weaving his manipulative web through the lives of those who crossed his path. His obsessive focus on Mariah Copeland had left a scar across her life. But what if Mariah wasn't the culmination of his twisted plans? What if someone else held the key to his convoluted heart? After Ian Ward's imprisonment and eventual disappearance from the public eye, many believed his reign of chaos was over. However, Ian had always been a man of secrets, one who thrived on unveiling truths that could shake the very foundations of trust. And when it came to Tessa Porter, his interest wasn't merely coincidental, it was deeply personal. Tessa's mysterious past. Tessa Porter was no stranger to secrets herself. A rising star with a haunting voice and a troubled past, she had spent much of her life running from shadows she couldn't name. Her parents were a void in her history, a chasm she had long learned to accept without question. Yet, buried within her music were hints of yearning, fragments of songs that whispered to a father she never knew. When Ian Ward returned to Genoa City, it was as if the air grew heavier. This time, his fixation wasn't on Mariah. Instead, it was Tessa who found herself caught in his dark orbit. She couldn't understand why, a man she'd never met, whose sinister reputation preceded him, suddenly seemed intent on seeking her out. And then, the unthinkable happened. Tessa was abducted. The revelation held in an isolated cabin deep in the woods, Tessa confronted her captor with defiance. Ian, however, seemed almost paternal. He didn't harm her, he didn't threaten her. Instead, he spoke in riddles, asking questions about her childhood, her mother, her father. The questions grew more invasive until he finally dropped the bombshell. "I believe I'm your father, Tessa." Tessa recoiled in disbelief, but Ian's face was devoid of his usual smugness. There was something unsettlingly genuine about his expression. He told her about a woman he once loved, a brief, fiery romance that ended in tragedy. He had a daughter from that union, a daughter who had been taken from him before he could protect her. For years, he believed Mariah was that child, but recent DNA testing had shattered that illusion. Now, all signs pointed to Tessa. Ian's quest for redemption. For Ian, the realization that Tessa might be his daughter was both a curse and a salvation. If true, it explained the strange pull he had felt toward her. Yet, it also meant confronting a lifetime of mistakes. Tessa, who had clawed her way out of a life of hardship, represented a second chance, a daughter who might see him not as a villain, but as a flawed man seeking redemption. Ian produced a DNA test kit, insisting that Tessa take it. "If the truth is in our blood," he said, "then neither of us can deny it." Tessa, torn between anger and curiosity, eventually agreed. The wait for the results felt eternal. During that time, Ian revealed more about his past, stories of regret, of love lost and squandered, of the twisted choices that had made him a pariah. It was the first time anyone had seen Ian Ward as more than a manipulative monster. When the results finally came, Ian's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. The words confirmed his suspicions. Ian Ward was Tessa's biological father. For Tessa, the revelation was like a lightning bolt through her carefully constructed life. This man, who had committed so many heinous acts, was her father. How could she reconcile her identity with his legacy? And yet, as Ian looked at her with tears in his eyes, she couldn't deny the pang of connection that coursed through her. The aftermath, the reunion, if it could be called that, was far from smooth. Tessa struggled to accept Ian's presence in her life. Her partner, Mariah, was horrified at the connection, given her own traumatic history with Ian. Friends and loved ones urged Tessa to sever ties and move on. But Ian was persistent, not in his usual manipulative way, but with an uncharacteristic patience. He didn't push Tessa to accept him. Instead, he tried to show her he was capable of change. He even sought therapy, a move that stunned everyone who knew him. The question lingered, could Ian truly change, or was this just another ploy? For Tessa, the choice wasn't simple. She couldn't erase the fact that Ian was her father, but she also couldn't ignore the pain he had caused. A fragile truce in the end, Tessa decided to meet Ian halfway. She agreed to limited contact, not out of forgiveness, but out of a desire to understand herself. She had spent her life searching for a father, and now that he was here, she couldn't simply walk away. Ian, for his part, respected her boundaries. He remained on the fringes of her life, offering support from a distance. Over time, he began to rebuild trust, not just with Tessa, but with others he had wronged. It wasn't redemption, not yet, but it was a start. The bigger picture, the story of Ian and Tessa, was more than a tale of estrangement and reunion. It was a testament to the complexity of family, the power of truth, and the possibility of change. While Ian Ward might never fully escape his past, his connection to Tessa gave him a reason to try. As for Tessa, she learned that identity wasn't defined by blood alone. Her past was messy, her future uncertain, but in her music, she found clarity. And though the shadows of Ian Ward would always loom, they no longer defined her. Instead, she stood as her own person, strong, resilient, and unbreakable. What comes next for Ian and Tessa? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, their story, like all great sagas, is far from over. Tessa's inner struggle. Tessa Porter has always prided herself on her independence. She built her life from the ground up, refusing to rely on anyone but herself. Her music became her solace, her weapon, and her identity. Learning that Ian Ward, a man synonymous with manipulation, cruelty, and chaos, is her father shakes her to the core. The thought of sharing a bloodline with him feels like a betrayal of everything she stands for. Her immediate reaction is denial, followed by anger. It can't be true, she tells herself. Yet, the DNA results are irrefutable. She begins questioning her very essence. Am I destined to be like him? It's a terrifying thought for someone who has worked so hard to escape the shadows of her mysterious past. Tessa's strength lies in her ability to confront adversity head-on. But this isn't just another hurdle, it's a direct challenge to her sense of identity. Could the fierce independence and resilience she so values be inherited from a man she despises? And if so, does that taint her accomplishments? Ian Ward's dilemma. Ian Ward, for all his flaws, is a man of conviction, albeit twisted ones. Learning that Tessa is his biological daughter gives him a rare opportunity for redemption. Yet, redemption is foreign to Ian. Manipulation and control are his tools of choice. For the first time in years, he faces a situation he cannot scheme his way out of. If he wants a relationship with Tessa, he must earn it, and that means changing in ways he never has before. Ian sees himself in Tessa, her determination, her self-reliance, her refusal to bow to others. These qualities make him proud, but they also make her resistant to his attempts to connect. He struggles to break through the barriers she erects, not because he lacks the will, but because he lacks the understanding. For Ian, emotions are a battlefield, not a bridge. Still, a part of him hopes that Tessa might see beyond his sins to the man he could be, the man he wants to be for her. But can a lifetime of deceit and cruelty be forgiven? And more importantly, can Ian truly change, or is this another self-serving illusion? The confrontation. When Tessa and Ian finally face each other, it's a clash of wills. Tessa demands answers, not out of curiosity, but as a means to confront the man whose blood runs through her veins. Ian, uncharacteristically vulnerable, offers her the truth about his past, his mistakes, and his regrets. You have every right to hate me, Ian admits, his voice stripped of its usual bravado. I've done terrible things. But I see you, Tessa, and I see the strength I wish I had. You don't have to forgive me. But I want you to know that you're better than I ever was, and that's something I'm proud of. For Tessa, hearing these words is both a relief and a burden. She appreciates his honesty but struggles to reconcile it with the image of the man she knows from the stories of his victims. Her instinct is to push him away, to sever the connection before it can poison her life. Yet, a small part of her, the part that always longed for a father, hesitates. Pride doesn't make up for the people you've hurt, she replies coldly. It doesn't make you a father. Finding common ground despite her anger, Tessa decides to give Ian a chance, not for his sake, but for her own. She knows that ignoring the truth won't make it disappear. She sets strict boundaries, agreeing to occasional meetings but refusing to let him into her life fully. Ian respects her wishes, understanding that trust is something he must earn, if it's even possible. During these interactions, Tessa begins to see glimpses of humanity in Ian. He's not just a villain, he's a man grappling with the consequences of his actions. This doesn't absolve him of his sins, but it complicates her perception of him. She begins to wonder if people are truly capable of change, or if Ian's efforts are just another form of manipulation. For Ian, these meetings are both painful and hopeful. Each moment spent with Tessa reminds him of what he's lost and what he stands to gain. He sees her strength and realizes that it's not just his blood that flows through her, it's her choices, her experiences, and her spirit that define her. He begins to see her not as a reflection of himself, but as her own person. The turning point, the real test, comes when Ian is faced with an opportunity to revert to his old ways. Someone from his past offers him a chance to regain his former power, at the cost of betraying Tessa's trust. For the first time, Ian hesitates. The decision he makes will determine whether he is capable of true change. If Ian chooses Tessa over power, it could be the beginning of a fragile reconciliation. If he falls back into his old patterns, it would shatter any hope of a relationship. Tessa, in turn, must decide whether she can accept him as he is, a flawed, broken man, or whether their connection ends with biology. A fragile bond in the end, Tessa and Ian find a fragile middle ground. Tessa accepts that Ian is her father, but she refuses to let that define her. She continues to forge her own path, proving that her strength is her own, regardless of her lineage. Ian, meanwhile, begins to understand that being a father isn't about pride or control, it's about letting go and allowing Tessa to live her life. Their bond remains complicated, filled with tension and unspoken words. But it is also a testament to the power of choice, the choice to face the truth, to seek redemption, and to define one's own identity. This nuanced relationship between Tessa and Ian Ward leaves the door open for endless possibilities. Will Tessa ever fully embrace Ian as her father? Will Ian's attempts at redemption succeed, or will his darker instincts resurface? Whatever the outcome, their journey is a poignant exploration of family, forgiveness, and the battle between legacy and individuality.